In this episode, it's time we get the electrical complete on the CB750, and we're doing this on the cheap using a cut-down factory harness. Well, here goes nothing. We start by putting the shortened wires back together by soldering and heat shrinking. A factory wire diagram makes this a lot easier. I like to use leaded solder along with this M12 soldering iron. Since this is a lengthy process and every motorcycle is different, let's just skip ahead some. This is what all the wires soldered back together looks like. And this is what it looks like once everything is cleaned up. Next on our list is to install the turn signals. These holes were already in the frame but just had to be made a little bit bigger. Since these are LED turn signals, we'll also have to replace the flasher relay. That job is just a simple plug and play. Once this is bolted on, we can repeat for the other side. Next, we will install the taillight. Since it needs to be perfectly centered, we'll use this flexible ruler to find center of the fender. The painter's tape will help us from making marks and scratches. Using the light bracket, we'll mark out the holes to be drilled. Then we can use a center punch to make the holes easier to start. Using the correct drill bit, we can drill the holes. From there, we can bolt on the mounting bracket for the taillight. Once the lower bracket is fully tightened, we can add the taillight itself. Then we can route the wire through the hole we drilled. The wire enters under the seat where it can be connected. Next, we can mount the tag light and tag bracket. Using the same method as before, we find center of the fender. Once we know center, we can mark out where the holes need to be drilled. Once everything is drilled, we can bolt the tag bracket on like this. Then under the seat we can hook up all the wires for the lights we just added. The same solder and heat shrink method is used to complete this. This Milwaukee M18 heat gun is pretty handy. Another thing we decided to change were the factory gauges. We ordered this replacement from Amazon. To make the install easier, we cut the factory plug off the original gauges to be used with the Amazon gauge. This process takes some more soldering. Once all the connections have been made, we cover the harness with tape. To make mounting this gauge easier, we modified the bracket from the factory gauges. This process took a little cutting and welding, but it ended up working out pretty well. This is what the gauge looks like attached to the bike. Then all we have to do is plug in this factory connection, and then we can test it. I tested all the functions and it looks like everything works. The final modification to the electrical system was to change out to an LED bulb. That process is pretty simple as it's just plug and play. The bulb's much brighter and it also uses a lot less energy.